Odegaard from the corner of the box, whipped in by Odegaard. Kai Havertz closing in on goal. Yeah, Kai Havertz has turned it in. But will the goal stand? No, it won't. Jared Gillett has blown his whistle.
Well, there's a massive decision here.
The decision is no goal.
Clear and obvious.
That's like the wrong.
No, clear and obvious.
What do you mean by that?
Clear and obvious, that's what I mean? No, that's my opinion. That's all I can say. I'm not going to talk about it more. Sorry. Well, very disappointed with the results, especially the way we played. I think we deserve much more than what we had. I think we're the better team. I haven't seen my team do what we have done to Villa today since we were here in February. But it wasn't enough to win because we lacked the accuracy in the opponent's box to put the ball in the back of the net with the amount of situations that we generated.
Yeah, I'm a very happy manager in this moment, and I know we were lucky as well. So if you only win your really good games, you have no chance to be really successful. That's how it is. And obviously today was not a really good game from us. For 76 minutes, it was a really bad performance. We didn't have rhythm changes. We didn't have any kind of accelerations. We had no timing. I don't know how often we're offside. It was horrendous.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the Adam Gold Show. That's Jay Kumar. I'm Adam Gold. So we serenaded you with first the goal that was chalked off on the field. I appreciate decisions being made on the field as opposed to whatever happened at Liverpool Crystal Palace, where John Brooks was the VAR and he was making all the decisions. I don't know, why was Andy Madley even there? And then you heard Mikel Arteta, and then Jurgen Klopp, and then the Anfield crowd serenading. That was from I don't even know when. How are you, Jay? Have you recovered?
Oh yeah, that was a fun weekend. I think overall, good matches. I think I was more disappointed with my performance on the score sheet than the result in the match.
Oh my gosh! All right, so we do this. We'll start at the end, and then we'll actually to topics. So we pick matches here every week. So last week, the winner, air quotes, was my 15-year-old who's now on a 3-week winning streak and has dragged himself all the way up into contention. He had a plus 1,400 something midweek, I think. But just insane. He had Villa. But he was 4-6 and was minus 200, and he ran away with it. That's how bad it was. You were 2-8. I was 1-9. The only win was City, and frankly, that probably should not have been a win for anybody. It was a complete disaster. We'll try and make it better this week. All right, a lot to talk about. We'll get to some of the stuff that we heard at the beginning. But I want to get to a couple of other things first. And the first is, especially to our friend Chris, who is a big time Villa supporter. So let me just throw this question at you. Are Villa title contenders? Why or why not?
No, they're not, but they're certainly European contenders. And I think at the end of the day, you know me, I'm a metrics guy. I think that the underlying metrics tend to bear themselves out over the course of a season. And if you look at the way Villa are playing, they absolutely dominated Manchester City. And should have won that game 5-0. And on the flip side, against Arsenal, they were hanging on and they probably should have lost that game 3-1. Now, credit to them. The goal they scored was brilliant. Those are one of those goals that happen where you kind of watch it and you're like, maybe we could have gotten a little tighter here or whatever. It was just a really well executed goal where they did everything they needed to score. So hats off to them. And at the end of the day, if you lose a match 1-0 where you don't convert your chances and you lose to a great goal, you can stomach that and deal with it. Now, some of the other situations that surrounded the match that back to your point earlier about who's officiating, is it the guy in the booth or the guy on the field? I think those are valid concerns, but credit to them. They beat, quote unquote, the two favorites. So by all measures, they should be in the hunt. I just don't think they have enough depth and quality in that squad to last the entire year, which is where ultimately they're going to be found out in the end. And I think that's going to be their challenge, similar to what you're seeing with a Newcastle, similar to what you saw happen with Tottenham. These squads that are not big enough to manage multiple competitions. Now, Villa obviously have the benefit of, focusing on the Premier League as their primary way. And I think for them, their focus should be on top four. And I think they're solidifying their place if they continue in this run of form. But I just don't think they have enough firepower to get them through a 38-game season. If they lose a player up front or something happens to Emi Martinez, I think that team could look a lot different and could be a little bit of a struggle. So their depth is what worries me, which is why I would not put them as title contenders. That said, I think they're a great team and should deservedly get all the praise for the way they've been playing the last month or so, and have earned their place in the top three and deserve and belong there.
All right, here's where I actually think they are title contenders, because I don't think we know what the number is going to be. If the number is 85 to get to 85, then I frankly don't think they're that far off of that. I think their quality, their versatility, they can come at you in a lot of different ways. They have players who are playing at super high levels. Their depth obviously can be an issue. They're already missing two of their best players going into the year, right? No Tyrone Mings from the beginning of the year, no Buendia. But they're getting just incredible runs, certainly right now, from a guy. Leon Bailey has been great. McGinn has been great. Yeah. I mean, it really is. Ollie Watkins might be the best striker, not named Erling Haaland, in the league. I mean, I think that's probably fair, because I don't know. Some of the center forwards are more center forwards or scoring from wings. Salah's not a striker. He's a scorer from the wing. So, I mean, Mings has been amazing. They're just playing at a very high level. And you mentioned it. I mean, I think Emi Martinez can be that guy. And do I think they're going to win it? No. But I am not willing to rule them out unless I know that the total is going to be higher than 85. If we're talking about 90 or so, I don't think they can get to there. They still have European competition to deal with. Right? So, I mean, that's going to occupy them, because I'm pretty sure they're the best outfit there. So they're going to be playing into May. But it also depends. What do you do in your home matches? Can you rest when you go on the road? Can you throw out more squad players?
I don't think so. So the group stage is over for them, and they won their group, and now they're in. And unfortunately, the teams that are remaining, while they are the best team, they are not teams they can just like roll out a B team and go win.
Right, but it depends on what they do in their home matches for those situations.
But
and then you can stick a bunch of players on the bench, right?
Right, but if that's a second leg, then they have to go out on. I just don't know if they have enough to make it through both competitions at this point.
And Emery's good at that. Emery's good at the European competitions.
But then that's going to sacrifice league form.
No, but I'm just saying, I think he knows how to manage it. And we'll see. I don't think they'll chances of them sticking with Liverpool, Arsenal, City in whatever order, I mean, probably aren't great anyway. But but I'm not going to rule it out, because when Leicester won in 16, the number was 81.
Yeah, I don't think but the point differential where we're at right now, if Liverpool and Arsenal just average a 2.5 point per game pace, we're above 90 there. That's what they're doing, though.
No, Liverpool's at 2.4 right now.
If they continue that, even if they continue on their current form, we're already at a 90-point pace. You're expecting both of those teams to drop back. I don't see it. I just don't see.
But I don't see anybody staying at this pace. That's the thing. Liverpool's got one loss, just one, and it was an own goal loss. I mean, they're gonna take losses, and I think we haven't even really gotten into, we have AFCON coming up, and the middle of the season when everything gets just a little bit more difficult. I just don't see these teams staying. Maybe they can keep up the current pace. I don't think we're going to head to 90 to win. I think we're going to be in the mid 80s.
I really do. And I think this is where the thing that you've been saying all season is going to come to fruition for Arsenal this year in terms of, are they going to be able to weather it? Is their squad depth? They got to get through December. Right now, we're a little thin in the back, which is kind of crazy to say. If we have one injury back there, we're toast. But if we can get to January, we have gone through this part of the season without Thomas Partey. If he goes to AFCON, fine. But that's it. That's the only player of note that we would not have for that stretch.
So Miyasu is not going to Asia? I think Japan has an event too, right?
When he gets back from injury. He's picked up a calf knock. It's going to rule him out for 6 weeks. So that'll be tough. So we'll see if he can get fit in time for that. But if he's gone, to those two players, neither of those players are as important as Salah is for Liverpool.
Oh gosh, no.
He's gone to AFCON.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to hurt Liverpool the most is AFCON, I think, more than anything else. I don't think it's going to be as detrimental to City or Arsenal, but we'll see what happens.
No, I totally agree. At that point, I believe I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Szoboszlai playing as a forward, because right now Liverpool's most depth. It's kind of amazing what I'm about to say. Liverpool's most depth is in the middle of the park.
Sure.
It's just, how did you go from last year having one of the worst midfields for a top club in recent memory to this year going, they got a ton of options. I mean, and a lot of versatility. In the last couple of matches, Klopp has brought Trent into the mid, legitimately, not playing as a hybrid, but he just brought him into the midfield in the middle of the game. He put Joe Gomez right back. That's what they did.
Yeah, no, I think that bodes well for Liverpool. I think the thing that they did really well that teams have to go through is when you recycle your squad for your second build. Very few managers. Pep has done it. Klopp, this is the first time we're seeing him do it. He seems to be doing it well. And then beyond that, the only managers that have ever reloaded a squad to win a title are Arsene Wenger and Sir Alex Ferguson. Mourinho has never done that. He has inherited squads. He's never rebuilt a squad, but Klopp is undergoing it. And the biggest test for him is rebuilding that back line, because in his first stint as Liverpool manager, getting Virgil van Dijk was that missing piece that got him through to being the best club in Europe. I've been impressed and a little bit surprised that they've been able to regenerate that midfield and hit on every signing so quickly. Szoboszlai was a player that I've tracked for a long time. He's excellent. He's going to be really good for Liverpool for a long time. Cody Gakpo gives him some flexibility. He could move into the forward line as well. Yeah, he's played there in the past. Played there for the Netherlands. So
yeah, I think he's mostly a center forward, not a striker, but mostly a center forward. Yeah. Sometimes he plays off the left.
He is your Havertz. Very similar profile. Very similar player that can play in that front line, but is learning to play a different role a little bit deeper because of their skill set and can finish moves and create different mismatches in that position and win aerials. A big physical player there. So I think that's been interesting. I still think that to get through the season, a 6 is going to be needed at a high level.
They're not getting it.
But I don't think that happens till the summer. And
those
two things, a 6 and Salah leaving for AFCON will be Liverpool's biggest stretch. The question is, does the fixture list break nicely for you during AFCON? I haven't looked at it.
I haven't looked at it either. I'm not.
You have enough in attack, Liverpool do, to weather some absences and score enough goals, especially against the bottom half of the league. So if that run during AFCON is very favorable, it could be not that big of a deal. If you're playing some of the more top half teams, it could create a few more problems. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I have not looked at what happens when Salah's gone. I have not looked at who they play. Everton. This is very funny because I sent this to you, and then I heard that apparently Rebecca Lowe did it on her podcast, and I'm like, okay, now I don't know if that's good or not. I think it's good. So if I ask you right now, who will finish higher in the table, Everton or Chelsea? Who would you take?
The Blues.
That's only one answer because I actually incorrectly referred to Everton once as the Blues. Yeah. And my friend Michael,
they're the Toffees, my friend. I am going to take Chelsea just to finish slightly ahead, only because that point gap it's hard. That's a lot of points.
6.
Yeah, but
it's only 6.
It is, but you're also assuming that they're not going to drop any more points, and I think until they are squarely and safely, they're only 4 points out of that relegation fight right now. Until they can create a little bit more distance, multiple games, like 7 to 10 points, they're mentally still going to be needing to keep one eye on that, which just gives Chelsea just a mental advantage. But
I don't think Chelsea has a mental advantage over anything.
Well, Chelsea are maybe a little bit broken as a club, but I think compared to being in a relegation fight, they're not worried about that, which is just one thing less they have to worry about, which I think gives them some flexibility. I still think they have more talent than Everton, even if they're not putting it all together.
Chelsea's got more talent than all but 3 teams in the league.
Yeah. So we'll see. But I think Chelsea slightly finish ahead of Everton. But if Everton continue their run of form, who knows? I mean, there's no reason why they couldn't have been challenging for maybe a Conference League spot if they were not deducted points. They'd be in 9th right now and not too far off of some European places. So credit to them for figuring it out, and credit to Sean Dyche for not playing the same way that he did at Burnley, but a little bit more progressive and evolving while still creating that defensive solidity that makes him made him a manager you wanted for that staying up fight that Burnley were always in.
23 points.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe they get a couple of points back from appeal. I don't think so, but they're trying to appeal. But 23 points put them just 4 points off Europa.
Yep.
That's it. 23 points also better than Chelsea's 19 and amortized over the rest of the season. They'd catch him. I think they're going to I'd take Everton. I think Everton catches Chelsea before the season's out. I love the way that team is playing. Absolutely love it. And they are just they probably should not have lost to United 3-0. Like that match. Oh no, they absolutely shouldn't have. United
I think that's a revisionist take. I think again, it's similar to
not really.
Well, Arsenal shouldn't have lost to Villa 1-0 then. I think
I totally agree with that. I totally agree.
Like, you don't put away your chances, which
They deserve.
They
deserve their fate. They deserve their fate in that game. But the way that game was played and chances created, and United scored
it was an even match. I thought United created as much as Everton. It was maybe should have been a draw. I don't think they deserved to win that match by any means.
No.
But they could. Yeah, they have gotten something out of it. Absolutely. But
that was an relatively evenly played match that ended up 3-0 United. That's all sports. All sports is that way. Like you could do everything right and you can lose. And we all have to face that reality, whatever team we root for. So Everton, you lost. Okay. I mean, don't give up 3 goals. But the way that game was played, United wasn't 3-0 better than them. What my favorite thing was listening to so many people go, "Oh, that was the best game United played." Like, no, not even close.
It's the best finishing they've had in a while. But
yes, they did that. One of the goals was from the spot. That's Rashford goal from the spot.
But also the goal of the season in that game. So
it was maybe that was worth 3. I don't know. By the way, Everton's
to be a winner. So
that was tremendous. Everton's next 3 are away to Burnley, away to Tottenham, which could be quite interesting. Home against City and away to Wolves. Those are, I mean, there's points to be had on the road for Everton.
They've been better on the road, so
they have been. The one loss recently. Although no, they just won at Goodison. Chelsea's home to Sheffield, away to Wolves, home to Palace, away to Luton. Chelsea. Now's the time.
12 out of 12, man. You got to get 12 points there. So
now's the time. Well, I don't favor them at all at Wolves, but the others they should win.
Yeah.
The others they should win. I don't favor them at Wolves.
Yeah,
it's my low opinion of Chelsea. Was the
doing that for Eileen?
No. Well, maybe she didn't wear her Robert Plant Wolverhampton jersey today. Was the result at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium more about Spurs or more about Newcastle? Because that was a runaway.
Yeah, it was. And Tottenham deserved winners, played excellent. But I think it's more about Newcastle. You and I talked about this offline, off air, earlier today, but that club needs to do some soul searching in terms of how are they managing that squad. They have an entire squad out with injuries. And while other clubs are dealing with injuries, every club has had an injury crisis at some point or another.
Absolutely.
Nobody has had one as extreme as Newcastle's and in the same places. So they've got a bunch of recurring injuries that other clubs don't have, in particular, lower back injuries, four or five players, which tells me, and I'm not a medical professional, but in just reading from others who are and talking with folks who are, that tells me there's something potentially in their training regimen or something in how they are managing their players and tracking data,
or how they play,
a recurring injury, or the way they play. But
very physical team.
And so it's unfortunate. And I think it's something they're going to need to look at and get corrected before the end of the year if they're going to manage all of these different competitions and realize their potential as what should be one of the four best teams in England when they are on form. Right now, the way they played and the way they can play, they could be a really, really dangerous and difficult team that could challenge for Champions League. I don't think they're going to get there, which could be a good thing to them. But it's going to be because of depth. Now, credit to Tottenham for figuring it out. Getting Romero and Udogie back in their back line really helped them and create some more platform for them to build. Their attack looked a lot sharper, kind of moving Kulusevski from the wing into the middle to facilitate a little bit more.
It was good. It was fun.
I thought that was
Son on the left.
Really, really solid for them. And then Son, when he was at his best, was always never center forward. He was coming off the wing, cutting in. He is arguably one of the top 2 or 3 best pure finishers in the Premier League in the last 20 years. And just ball striking. And so getting him into spaces where he can be that again is a good thing for Tottenham. And so, they did a lot well. And I think they deserved that game. But I also think there were enough things there that if I were a Spurs fan would give me some pause. If Isak finishes that chance early, they're up 1-0.
Well, that was a good defensive play. Benvis, he deflected that ball away. He deflected that ball over Isak's foot.
I still think Isak needs to turn that on frame and not shank it off the side of his foot.
Yeah, he barely touched it. He barely touched it. It went right over his foot. I give total credit to Davis on that.
If you're Tottenham, that would give me some worry. A team that wasn't as gassed as Newcastle may have been able to exploit that a little bit more.
Well, that's why I think it was more about Newcastle. I think Tottenham was the worst possible matchup for Newcastle. A team that was always going to just hair on fire attack was never going to be a good matchup for Newcastle. And I think Trippier is absolutely on empty. What Son did to him for 90 minutes was that was criminal. He abused him. He just turned him all over the place. Both goals that Son set up, he worked Trippier. And you just don't see Trippier get worked like that.
No.
But Son is amazing. He's been really good in the center, but for that match when they put Richarlison on, like Son goes to the left, and they just became, I mean, hell on wheels for Newcastle to deal with. They've started the same 10 outfield players the last 5. The first of those matches was the Champions League match, and they played all 90 plus. I mean, what? You don't make a sub?
Yeah.
Like I could argue that was it Wednesday when they play? Was it Wednesday they play Milan, or is it tomorrow? Regardless, if I were them, forget it. Just don't worry about it. I mean, the win doesn't guarantee you getting in anyway, so I would just junk it because you don't have the depth to deal with the big boys in Champions League, so they're probably a round of 16 and out anyway. But I guess if I'm saying that, it might make sense to go for it. But man, why play any more matches than you need to play? With the way your squad is right now, I mean they have they did bring Wilson and Longstaff back in, but they're not really ready to play a lot. I mean, they're going to find themselves really behind it if they can't even afford. And they love Cher and Cassels, Cassels both kind of got dinged up. I messed up his name. Both got dinged up in the match. Like Cher was just kind of like he needed crutches at some point.
I also want to dispel a rumor here, and I want to not to call you out on it, but this notion that Tottenham are all-out attack, hair on fire, is just a myth. Against Newcastle, they were 15% of their expected goals for the entire season came in that one game. They had 4.1 XG in that game. Beyond that, in the last 10, they have not surpassed 2 XG but one time, and that was in a 2-1 loss to Villa. They have not been creating, and they have not.
Well, not lately. They're hurt too. Well, that's why Tottenham's been losing.
I think, they're hurt, and that's why they're losing. But even before that, if you look at the breadth of the whole season, they are not a team. They're outperforming their XG. They are not a team that is just what Liverpool was. And I think that's the misconception is because of that Chelsea game where they just played a ridiculously incompetent high line and lost 4-1, when if they just sat deep, they probably could have stole something from that game, even with 9 players. There's this notion that they're peak Liverpool where they're just suffocating you in attack. And that is just not what they're doing. And I think we've got to recognize that. And so, for Liverpool, it worked out, for Tottenham, it worked out really well for them against Newcastle because they were gassed and they do have a very strong dynamic attack that can create goals, but they are not this attacking force that they're being made out to be. I think they're a well-balanced side that are trying to be a little bit more like City and Arsenal in terms of possession, but want to play a little bit more on the front foot. I think the reality with Tottenham is that they played murder ball with Conte and Mourinho and Nuno Espirito Santos for the last 3 years, that this kind of shift to a more progressive style is just so jarring that people are viewing it through this lens or this prism of fun. They are fun to watch.
I've never enjoyed watching them before, ever.
They are not Liverpool. They are not City. They are not these teams that are going to suffocate you on the top end of the pitch. That's just not what they're doing. But they are playing fun football, and you have to give them credit for that. And I think, that was not a good matchup for Newcastle. Tottenham are getting healthier as Newcastle are getting less healthy. So, that was more about Newcastle than Tottenham. We'll see more. I think Tottenham will get another result this weekend against Forest, but we'll see what happens in Goodison in 2 weeks.
The sun was out there for a second. We started this. It was kind of dusk, and I was a little in the dark, so I added another light. And then once the sun went down, I needed less light. There you go. I don't think Tottenham's going to finish top 5 in the league. I think ultimately Tottenham is going to be who we thought they were at the beginning of the year. But you never know based on the way some of the teams below them meet. Newcastle, Brighton has been struggling. And honestly, if anybody knows what to make of Manchester United, let me know. I'm not sure they like Eric Ten Hag. I do think it's interesting that two of the players, when we went into the season, that they were counting on to provide scoring, Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho, one hasn't been around the team for 2 months, and the other might as well not. So, I mean, I can't figure them out. We'll get to them when we do some predictions a little bit later on. Let me get to the fourth thing, and we heard this in the beginning. Mikel Arteta, clear and obvious. All right. I don't really want to relitigate the whole game, and I don't think you do either. No. What was his point, though? Was he just overly emotional like he was after the Newcastle game? And I'm not saying he wasn't right to be overly emotional about the Newcastle game or even this one.
I think this was his.
What was he talking about?
This was his Marshawn Lynch moment. He just here to not get fined. And so that was it. And he's like, hey, the rule says clear and obvious. So that's what I'm going to say. And I think it's unfortunate because you saw, I don't know if you saw the clip doing the rounds of Roy Hodgson.
He was mad too.
He was really articulate in kind of his concerns with it. It wasn't even targeted at Liverpool. It was more just the way this year the officiating is headed and kind of overarching. He wasn't even talking about the interesting thing. He wasn't just talking about his game. He was making a commentary on kind of a variety of things, from handballs to other things, which weren't really relevant in the Liverpool Palace game, and I think a really harsh sending off. Two dumb fouls.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think I was a little bit soft on the second one to give a yellow there. But regardless, I think what we're seeing, and the clear and obvious comment is, we have to give managers the ability to have a personality and speak about the game. Klopp, Pep, Arteta, these are voices that should be allowed to say what they're thinking and give their opinion after games without fear of retribution. And I agree. I think that I went back and I wanted to look at Arteta's comments about the Newcastle game, and I was actually surprised at what I read from him, because the comments were actually not about the call. They were about how we as a league need to have a standard of officiating, that if we have 4 different calls that we are looking at one goal and we can't get an angle on any of them, and we are the most expensive league, spending the most, expecting the best, that's not good enough. And we have to do better as a league in order to ensure the standard of officiating is as good as the quality of the players on the pitch. I think that's a fair statement by any manager in an emotional situation, to that be resulting in him having a charge of, quote, bringing disrepute to the game that has still not been resolved. And I guarantee you, I'm putting it on air right now, that they will make that determination that he'll miss the game at Anfield. That will be the game he will be suspended for. Roberto De Zerbi had his hearing. His comments occurred after Arteta. He got a fine and they moved on. Stuart Atwell came out, who refereed that match, with a glowing written statement that basically said Arteta was professional, handled everything with me and with the officials, in an above board manner, and upon review would have given the foul if asked to go to the monitor. So the officiating, the official that was on the match said that. So, I think his clear and obvious comment, I think Klopp on the fence and not always being as open as he was earlier in his career is more a product of us trying to neuter and silence some of these characters and personalities in the game.
I want them to talk. I want them to tell. I want them to tell us how they feel. I'll differ a little bit. I think Arteta absolutely meant that play against Newcastle. But I thought there was a second and larger point, which is about the officiating in general overall. Yeah. And I think after the match, he absolutely felt like he was jobbed twice. And I don't think the Havertz goal should have counted. But I can certainly see where Jesus should have been awarded a penalty. I think it was a similar, probably was even maybe less harsh for Palace's goal, which they stopped the game 2 minutes later. like in the middle of play, all of a sudden the whistle blows, and the announcers went, "Oh my gosh, they're actually going to go look at this."
The
But
one that actually what concerned
fine.
me, I thought that should have been a penalty. I thought the goal, the question that they never went and looked at is there are two different angles. One, it looks like Havertz puts it in. The other, it looks like Eddie puts it in.
Oh,
If
Havertz
Eddie
clearly
puts
did.
it in,
It's a goal.
The reverse angle. If Eddie puts it in, it's a goal.
Absolutely.
So I don't. They didn't even look at that, which I feel like they should have. But regardless, there was an elbow from a Villa player, clearly hitting the Arsenal player in the head, knocking him to the ground on a breakaway. Should have been reviewed for violent conduct. Here's what I don't understand. Back to who's officiating the game.
Did Kovacic get sold? Not Kovacic. Who did I get? Gumaresh. Did Bruno get sold?
No.
Or Kovacic. They both done it.
But what was wild about this is no foul was given on the play. The ref did not see it. It happened behind the play.
Mm.
They go to VAR or they don't go to VAR. They don't go to VAR. They on the throw-in, he hears something and he comes back and gives a yellow card that they review. Who gave that yellow card if the official wasn't watching it?
Don't know. Can you get your own yellow card? Can you call a yellow card on yourself?
If I'm a Villa fan, I'm annoyed because that was a card given to a player, but we don't know who it came from. And it should have been a red. And because they gave it a yellow, they said, oh, it wasn't clear and obvious to avoid it. So was there somebody in the booth making that call and saying, you missed this? Because in the clip, you can see it. The head official and the linesman are not looking at the play. This happens behind the play, removed. So somebody saw it. Somebody told him, you need to give a card here, but we don't know who. If I'm Villa, I'm frustrated about that because I'm not sure, but if that's his fifth yellow, I know Villa had a few players on 4. That means he has to miss the next match.
Right.
And that's completely unfair to Villa if that's what happened. Yet on review, it looks like it should be a red, and they don't even go to VAR to look at it for a clear and obvious error. And so it's those kind of things similar to your match, the Liverpool Palace match, with who was making the decisions. Was it the official on the field or was it the official in the VAR studio?
John Brooks did a lot more work than Andy Madley in that game.
Too much, and we've got to empower the person on the field to make the calls because they do understand the temperature of the game. But we also have to make sure that when we do use VAR, it's used consistently across matches.
Yeah, here's the only thing with that.
Totally inconsistent.
The only thing with that is that unless we're talking about offside or was the ball across the line,
which we don't even know that
anyway.
Which we don't even know that
calls anyway. So it's hard
ball
to get.
Over the lines become a judgment call based off of end lines. We don't even have camera angles and so technology.
Well, look how long it took. Look how long it took the National Football League to put cameras in the end zone pylons.
Yeah.
Like I still don't understand why we have people with 10-yard chains and 2 sticks and just people eyeing. I think the ball stopped right there. Like, are we really doing this? But that's the way it's done. In some ways, the Premier League is super advanced. All right, let me ask this question. It's a little trivia question for you, Jay. It's not really trivia. Three clubs out of the last 5 have 13 points. Who are they?
3 out of the last 5 with 13 points.
3 clubs have 13 points out of 15 in their last 5 matches.
So I would assume that would be Villa, Everton, and Fulham?
No.
I
do have a note about Fulham here. Villa, Liverpool, and Bournemouth.
Ooh.
13 of 15. And by the way, Fulham, 16 goals in 14 days. 4 matches. 16 goals back to back 5-0 wins. Remember when we didn't think they would score a goal because Mitrovic is in Saudi Arabia?
Impressive.
I mean, just absolutely ridiculous. All right, real quick, let me just throw some notes for people. Champions League, United needs to win at home to Bayern, which I guess is possible, especially since Bayern's coming off a 5-1 loss to Frankfurt, which I watched the highlights of today. They just got owned by. They looked so slow against Frankfurt. But United needs a win, plus Galatasaray and Copenhagen must draw. Otherwise, United is at best headed to Europa. If they win, they get to go to Europa, but they're probably going to lose. Arsenal's got a dead rubber match against PSV. Same with City.
To see nothing but kids.
Oh, children. Just play children and just kids off the street. And Newcastle, they need a win versus Milan, and they need PSG actually to lose to Dortmund, which could happen. Could happen. It's in Germany. It's in Germany.
Yeah, but Dortmund haven't been playing. They've been so erratic in form this year. I think Newcastle and United are going to get the worst possible scenario, which is dropping into the Europa playoff round. An extra round of matches for both of those clubs is the last thing they need right now.
Absolutely. For Europa, West Ham, Brighton are through, but they need to win to avoid the playoff. Liverpool's got dead rubber, and Aston Villa's got dead rubber in conference. All right, just for people who cared. All right, rather than pick all the matches, and I have your picks. I will text you mine later. I'll just throw 3 out there. If you want to add another game, you can. So let's start with Newcastle and Fulham at St. James Park. What you got?
You'd think it's a no-brainer if Newcastle, the way we were talking about Fulham a few weeks ago, but now they've scored 80 goals in 8 weeks or something, and they're an absolute juggernaut. So I'm going to go with a draw here. I think Newcastle, if this was at Craven Cottage and they had to travel from Newcastle all the way back to London again, that would be a tough ask, and they would likely, I don't know if they have the legs for it, but St. James Park always gives them a little push, gives them a little boost. I think they're a much tougher outfit at home, and so that will be that will do just enough for them to squeak out a draw against Fulham and hopefully get to a break. I am excited, and I think it's a good thing that the Premier League is doing the 2-week break again to allow for warm weather training camps for teams. I think that'll do a load of wonders for some clubs, Newcastle in particular.
Get some massages. I'm going to ride the Fulham train until it goes off the rails.
All right.
I'm going to ride that train. Also, I mean, because they don't know any other way, they're going to go all out to beat Milan. And Milan needs to win too. So, and Milan, by the way, is also kind of banged up. But I'll go Fulham. Brentford at the G-Tech, home to Aston Villa.
Getting a result at Brentford is tough. That's a tough place to go play. I think very few teams have gone in there and successfully come out with anything. Villa are a fortress at home. Their away form has been a bit shaky. I think a draw here as well, though. I think at the end of the day, Villa will be able to get something just because I think they're in a good run of form and they're feeling good about themselves, and confidence does folks a load of wonder, but getting 3 points in the G-Tech is going to be tough for them.
I'm with you. I also have that as a draw. All right, they're at Anfield, Liverpool and Manchester United. We have no idea. United is the box of chocolates. We have no clue when we open it up what we're going to get. Liverpool, pretty good at home. Just leave it at that. Do you see anything here other than a Liverpool win? I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think it'll be 7-0 like last year, but I like Liverpool.
Man, plus 500 for United is a really, really tempting number, but and plus 425 for the draw is also real nice. But I think United have to go midweek and play a tough game against a very high-quality opponent. Liverpool can rest and put all of their energy and all of their focus and planning into this match. I think that will ultimately.
No Bruno also.
Yep. Fernandez is out. I think at the end of the day, it's just too big of an ask for United to go into Liverpool without their captain, without their best player, having to play a tough midweek match against Bayern Munich, and then come back and get 3 more points. It doesn't seem feasible. And I just don't think that United backline, even with Shaw back, is going to be able to contain all 5 of Liverpool's attacking threats that come in. The only saving grace for them is that Darwin Nunez, incredibly, for as good as he is in every other facet, has a worse performance against his XG than Nico Jackson, which is never a good place to be.
He's built that. He's built that over the last 7 or 8 matches.
But yeah, never a good place to be when you're finishing as worse than Nicholas Jackson.
He's just, and honestly, if you looked at the trend, I'll bet it's way worse, because there was a time where he was actually ahead of his XG earlier this year.
I believe he's something like, how many goals does he have this year?
5.
Nunez?
He's been, look, for my money, I know I think he's
awesome. Got like 5 or 6, but he should have, his XG is like 13 or something. Like he's got more XG than some teams. But like,
yeah, his XG is I think it's like 13. But here the thing about him is that he just creates. There's opportunities all day long when he's on the field. So just let him go out there, because if he doesn't finish, there are chances created just by his presence.
Yeah,
I know that sounds weird. He just creates opportunities.
It doesn't sound weird to me at all, because that's what Gabriel Jesus does for Arsenal. He is just that thing, that force of gravity that attracts the ball in dangerous areas.
And he's comedy.
And he's great. So
did you see the double pigtail stuff? I didn't get that. Do you want to throw another match in there?
I think those are the 3 that matter, and the rest of the games are pretty boring. I think kind of a chalk week. There's nothing that nothing too crazy out there. Arsenal Brighton could be a little spicy, but I think after the performance on the weekend, being back at home and getting their manager back on the bench, I think they're going to be raring to go to prove a point. You don't
think Palace is going to give City a what for? I don't either. That game that could get very, very, very ugly. Yep.
Very ugly.
I agree. All right, this was good. That's Jay. I'm Adam. We'll do this again next week, sir. Appreciate your time as always.
Happy holidays.
That's right. Merry